Hello, good afternoon. It's Monday the 22nd of July. It's the Everton Daily Live. And Gianna here, Pedder's over there, and Ned's
He looks relaxed.
doing something else. It is Monday after the weekend before.
Not on Saturday.
Friday was there's a term, Black Friday, which is normally in November regarding sales and that. Everton had a very different Black Friday the other day. It really was a depressing day. Started off with the takeover news, finished off with a shocking performance in a friendly. But yeah, I mean, obviously the weekend, we've had the weekend to let everything, digest, so to speak. We will get on to the Gnonto stuff in a minute, but are you any further on from Friday, John, or in terms of the takeover stuff? Where are you sitting today with that?
Same as it was before. Seems to me that it's likely they're still in a negotiating mode.
Okay.
People can read a lot or nothing into Freaking Group's behaviour at Roma. But I mean, I've been there when you negotiate certain things. You can use a phrase or words like, if that's the best you can do, we haven't got a deal. And typically when you deliver that message, which I've done more than once, the other party says, well, we haven't got a deal then. But one of you either both walk off and never see each other ever again, or one of them reflects on whether they were asking for too much or not giving enough or whatever. And, and to my mind, and I don't know if I said it last week, but, if you really want something, you make it happen. If you don't, you make excuses.
Yeah.
And we're not really hearing excuses out of the Freaking Group. They haven't said anything. You know what I mean? So I think there's probably some life in it yet.
Yeah.
And it works for both parties. It potentially puts pressure on 777A cap, whatever they're called, whatever that liability that the football club has, perhaps puts them under notice almost of, you may need to moderate any expectation you have of getting all your money back.
Yeah.
And by the same token, it also, because the exclusivity period has ended, then Moshiri can't basically say what he said last time, which is, I couldn't listen to anybody else because, yeah. And if he's playing too hardball, maybe when he speaks to other parties, we'll either find out he's not, because they're happy to go with it, or that he is, because no one will step up to some of the requirements he's made, which clearly includes, as we were talking offline, doesn't matter how you do it. It's not what you do type of thing, it's how you do it, isn't it? But the how is the creativity of any potential buyer and how effective you are at negotiating. But if Moshiri's head is that slug of money ultimately converts to equity, then someone has to find a way for that to happen. Curiously, though, if you just want to free think for a bit, it was always expected that the MSP money had to be paid off as part of any deal, and that's done. And of course, under 777, it was assumed that their loans would convert to equity. So at the moment, that would be the equivalent of that would be the new owner paying it off and having it in their pile of equity. Yeah. And the same with the MSP stuff in many respects. Yeah. But if both parties remain committed to trying to make a deal happen, then it can happen. So let's wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the reports where there's other people back interested again.
You'll always get
I think Vatchmanukian, who was interested last time, is back at the table. Vici, Paul Joyce reported over the weekend that they're still there, and they had, apparently last time, they had a lot of money to put in, and we're happy to pay everyone off and get moving on that. So I don't know what that is.
Mike Tyson had an opinion on this, didn't he, about strategy and stuff.
Can't say on Everton. I've not heard that.
No, just on sporting things really, which he used to say about his opponents. They all had a plan till it hit them in the face. Yeah, everyone has money till you ask them to prove it.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, but that's what. And don't forget, due diligence sort of works. Well, it does on both sides. So I'm assuming, and I could make an ass out of you and me, but I'm assuming that Moshiri requires proof of funds before he lets people do the due diligence bit. And I think the only thing with every man and his dog having an opinion, I think most people would believe that Free King Group have got the funds, whether they want to spend them, because you don't throw money away, or if they do want to spend money, they want to spend it in a way that's asset enhancing. So I'm sure they'd rather spend 200 million on players than 200 million on paying off 777 cap. Yeah. And as we discussed on Friday, the uncertainty around that, which, by the way, I don't subscribe to therefore nothing can be done until all the legals around that have unravelled. And so you just have to find the mechanic that allows you to do it, the mechanism. And the thought from some that, Everton are unsellable. You see journalists and the like saying that's it, nothing can be done because it's all messy and stuff like that.
Nonsense.
I'll just go back to what I said. If you really want Everton Football Club, you'll find a way.
But all of that stuff's utter nonsense and headline stuff. That's all.
It's clickbait to a large degree. Yeah, of course it is.
It's nonsense.
And you can't qualify or validate effectively some of the things you'll get told, which is why a lot of the time we don't say stuff on here, because we can't get sufficient independent, evidence about it to allow us to say something without compromising a single source, which clearly you should never do anyway. But the fact that we don't get confidence that we're not just hearing the same thing from 3 different places, but it's the same source, and it could be fantasy.
See, at the end of the day,
and everyone can have an opinion, and no one will get challenged because no one knows.
At the end of the day, if you've got money to buy a football club, you've got sufficient money, then that 200 million can be put somewhere if it needs, and you might never. It's a rainy day thing, isn't it? Now, I'm not saying everyone's got, I can throw 200 million there and that's fine. You just got to have the money to be able to deal with it, and that money will either, you have to be paid back, or it might be a reduced cost, or there might be no business by the time this shakes through. Who knows? But you've got to have the worst case scenario, and maybe just right now, I don't know, but maybe Free can either haven't got it, or not that they haven't got it, because quite clearly there's money available, but whether they think, putting that aside,
value.
It's
about value. And we nearly touched on this when we were talking last week, because this sort of thing happens a lot in private industry. And if you oversimplify it, it tends to come in and around things like, there you go, we use the stadium as an example. Fixed price. Yeah. Right. The famous fixed price. Yeah. There are so many flavours of fixed price, then if you want to claim it wasn't, you can. If you want to claim it was, you can also. Yeah. But the reality is, uncertainty or doubt or lacking of insight or just stuff that's just not known has a big impact on what some things cost. Right. So if I say to you, I guarantee, I'll give you a fixed price, Baz, of 100 to do something. That's because I've assessed the risk of it being whatever it's going to cost plus my profit. And guess what? I think the worst case for me is 100. Yeah. If you think the worst case for you is 120, you might take that deal, mightn't you? Because you think,
absolutely.
Fantastic. And then when the things happened and you find out it only cost me 80 to do it, you're really miffed because you left 20 on the table, didn't you?
Yeah.
Right. So that used to get in the way a lot in some of the dealings I would do, and you'd end up coming up with an arrangement with the client, which fundamentally said, if this ends up costing me less than I thought because the risk wasn't as high as I thought, I'll share the saving with you, right? In other words, well, doesn't all go to profit for me, we share in it. Of course, the natural counter to that is, but if it ends up costing me more than I thought, you have to share in the upside, right? The excess cost. So in our little example just now, I might give you a fixed price at 100. It ends up costing me 120. So you don't get it for 100, you get it for 110 as an example. And I don't get covered all the way up to 120. So we share the pain, don't we? Guess what happens if you get into that environment? Both of us work really, really hard to make sure it's 100. Because neither of us want to overpay.
Nope.
And we also work hard to try and get it below 100 as well. So if this issue is 200 mil and all parties are trying to make that number as small as possible, that includes ACAP themselves, right? Because
will they trying to make it as small as possible? They want as much money back as they can get. They want all of it, probably.
Well, of course, right? At the moment, in the instance when ACAP decide, maybe tomorrow or never, that the money they're being offered by whoever is greater than they think they would get if they played the long game, they'll take it.
Is there any world where ACAP...
And therefore, it is a bit of brinkmanship. It is a bit of hard-nosed negotiating. 100 million today may be a lot better than 150 million next year, and certainly better than 200 million never, right, and so on.
Is there a world where ACAP try and take Everton over?
No. I don't have an option, do they, anyway? But
no, but they could, couldn't they? They could quite easy come to the table with.
And so we've got 200 million.
There's already 200 million in, so we'll give you another 300 million as the club.
Yeah, they could.
Then you've got a £500 million asset.
Yeah,
with a £1 billion stadium, and then they can sell.
I strongly suggest if you describe that almost,
because that was mentioned a while ago.
Well, if you describe that as an aggressive takeover, right, i.e., it's not what the owner wants, for example, then he wouldn't write off his £450 million worth of debt, would he?
No.
So the levers are there to try and encourage people to do certain things, and then of course when people see what they think's going on, i.e., and all we know is Friedkin has said, don't think we want to do this, and then everyone's having a view about why, and the concluding it's because of all the uncertainty and doubt, which is probably valid, by the way. Uncertainty brings risk, and it brings unmeasurable risk, and therefore you don't do stuff, right? But you can mitigate that risk by diluting it down, couldn't you? Right? So the example might be, well, say you're Friedkin, I really want this to happen, this deal with Everton, but I ain't going to give those guys over at 777 more than 100 mil. And then King's saying, well, I want 200. Albeit I've got to go to court to prove that it's my 200, it's not their 200 type of thing. So there's a risk there of 100, isn't there?
Of course, yeah.
So someone might want to take that risk. Now, sometimes people might go, let's go to an insurance company then. Gambling on horses is one thing. Gambling on the outcome of a court case is a bit harder, as we saw with our PSR stuff, right? But you could get the owner, Farhad or whatever, saying, I'll take a risk there to get this over the line. But a bit like what I've just described, which is by the mechanism you want to look it up, I think it's probably called gain share or something like that, is if it turns out these guys only get 100 and I've promised you that I'll pay the other 100,
then I'll cover it,
then I'm taking the benefit. So therefore Everton would be worth 100 more, wouldn't it? And that's the chat we had the other day. If there is any dilution in the debt to any of our creditors, who gets the benefit? The current owner, which would increase the value of the club and therefore how much you might anticipate receiving in return for it, or the future owner. And the trick is to get an environment or a situation in play where both the new and the old owner are motivated to try and work together to get the preferred outcome.
In that situation, why should they end up paying more then?
Because the company would be worth more.
Yeah, but if they were only going to give, they'd end up paying the 200 million anyway, wouldn't they? So that doesn't make sense to me then. Okay. What we have it right now, we can assume, let's just assume this, that a deal to acquire Everton, right, or the majority shareholders' shares, in return for you're going to inherit some things, right? One of them, pay off MSP, convert that to equity. Another one is mimic the 777 thing, go into equity. Yeah.
Then clearly Friedkin Group have decided those numbers don't stack up for us. Yeah. So just for our illustration, if we choose to say, well, the gap between what they would do and what they won't do is 100 million. In other words, a 50% haircut for 777 ACAP. So if the ACAP man rang up and said, hey lads, I'll tell you what, cut a deal, notwithstanding I'm going to court, that assures me of 100 million.
Yeah, that'll shake on it.
Then I'll go for that. And then Free can go, whoa, fantastic, sort of thing. But let's say he's just holding his court and holding his position. No, it's 200 million. Then they don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Someone has to close that risk gap.
Yeah, no, I get the fear.
Okay, so when that risk gap closes, i.e. Farhad says,
Farhad will guarantee it.
I'll do it,
Yeah.
whatever. On one hand, whatever he says he'll do is money lost to him,
Of course. Yeah.
right? But it's also to the benefit of the buyer, because the buyer's now paid 100 million less in theory for the football club than he thought he was going to have to pay, because someone else, him, has just paid the 100. So he would want to say, well, that must value the club higher. Okay. So it's just those plates spinning, right? Yeah. And you'll never see the outcome of all this until the day comes when they say, yeah, it's done. We've done it.
Paul says, why can't whoever buys the club just put 200 million owed to 777 in a bank account, then let the American course decide who gets it?
Because, I guess, first off, they don't want it to be 200 million, right? So it's not a matter of just like, let a court do it, right? And the other thing is that if the drag on the business on this debt doesn't crystallise till the future, right? And, you know, the 777 stuff is not supposed to be an issue, is it, till, 2026 or something, right? Then, in theory, you don't have to do anything until 2026.
Yeah,
right? Yeah. And if you do it now, that means people go on Google and go, oh, escrow, that's a good idea. Let's stick 200 million in there, that's like a good commitment because it says the monies are there, right? Yeah. But that's money you can't use now. It's there. Yeah, instead of in your bank working for you, right? So it's not as easy as just say, hand the money over. Yeah. Now, what we don't know, because whatever anybody says, I don't think Freakin are telling anybody any detail about why they've decided what they've decided. But we discuss whether it's as much to do with reputational risk, whether it's to do with could we get indirectly damaged by the fraudulent nature according to some of the court, but don't forget they're also civil cases. They're not, so they're just seeking compensation logically, yeah. But it might turn into something more serious. And over again, I would just say where there is uncertainty, there's risk, and where there's risk, you have to be able to mitigate it. If you can't mitigate it because you don't know how big the risk is, you don't do it. And I think that's where they're at.
Celtic Vapors question for John. Would you agree with the Esk's take on the collapse of the deal is the implications surrounding legal action in the USA?
Maybe, but I wouldn't in a binary yes-no way say that's the reason. I think Paul also says this makes the club unsellable. I don't agree. I don't agree that's the case either, because and it sounds a bit just like a soundbite, but ultimately in deal making, where there's a will, there's a way, right? If you really want this football club enough, you will find a way. If not, you'll find an excuse. And if the excuse is, we have to let these court cases play out, then fine. That's people are allowed to walk away from deal making any time they want. But it doesn't mean that somebody else won't come in and either be prepared to take more risk, or don't assess the risk in the same way, or just have a greater desire to own the football club that allows them to be a bit bolder. I don't know. But we don't know what we don't know. And it could be just as likely that they just don't need the noise. It's a long established company built on a certain culture, and they don't want it damaged in any way, shape or form. And you can get damaged just by association, can't you?
Ken says it's not just the 200 million, it's the interest on that as well. So no one knows how much is going to actually be owed, because the interest will keep getting added the longer the court case goes on.
Well, this is the 777 money.
Yeah.
No interest has been added at all yet, is it?
Till 2026.
Yeah. So. But it's a valid point, but people will know.
There might be nothing to pay.
You can calculate the number, yeah.
Like that. So.
I mean...
Anyway, that's for another day.
Bear in mind, this money was always supposed to end up...
As equity.
And I think
Everton could argue that.
Mashiri is clearly trying to mimic the 777 deal, because it was his deal. Yeah. I want this, and this to happen. And in return for that, I'll convert all my loans into equity, and I'll take next to nothing for my shares.
Yeah.
That smacks like I want to look after Everton as much as I want to look after myself, doesn't it? So.
Nice. Gnonto, Wilfred Gnonto, according to sources in Yorkshire, and the Yorkshire Post are running with this as well,
thought you were going to say, according to all sources, it's going to start raining men then.
Yeah, hallelujah. It's going to start raining wingers because Everton are trying to bring two in this week.
Apparently, yeah.
But Wilfred Gnonto looks...
We'll have pace everywhere.
They've edged closer. And again, this deal has been... Let's be honest, this deal's been going on for 14 months now or something, 13 months. With a hiatus in the middle. So if Everton get it done, and again, I won't believe that this deal's done until he's literally got the kit on, because I don't... that is what it is.
Some of these
difficult
sources are in Yorkshire, aren't they?
Well, yeah, but it's not the fact that we know that the club's they've been speaking for weeks and weeks. But until it's sort of until he's had his medical and got a shirt on, you'd have to
with or without a badge.
Judge it. We can come on to that in a minute. But you think he'd be a good signing for that? And obviously, he's not a he's a player who plays in moments, but he is young. He's pacey, capped by Italy and all that. But Everton needs some pace, and he can provide.
He brings what we're lacking: a bit of trickery and a bit of pace. It's Deulofeu with pace. Who'd have thought it? But high ceiling as well, probably. It's an interesting one because when people talk about, and you just did it, there's like a rule of thumb, isn't there, that says if they're young, they're inconsistent. But there's a hell of a lot of young players out there at the moment who are disproving that, aren't they? We're probably going with an older soundbite which said, if you're good enough, you're old enough. Yeah. So
maybe it's just not good enough then.
Well, you can only use the excuse of age so long, can't you, really, I suppose? We were talking briefly before about Patterson will be 23 in not so many months, and all of a sudden he thinks, where's my career going, But yes, I think so, yeah. I hope it's not a Danjuma. We finally get our man. He turns out not to be the man we thought he was. But again, you've got youth, and you don't actually play for your country at a relatively young age, particularly Italy. If you haven't got something about you, albeit Moise Keane played for Italy as well. So yeah,
there is that.
But yeah, I think so. We need pace, and he wants to come here. It appears. Yeah. So if the tunes are just rattling sabres for the sake of it. But be interesting to see if that brings some heartache along the way or not. But they've no money anyway, so.
I think, listen, Everton need to start getting people in who can run and who can train, get people training. We saw that on Friday.
Excitement.
Saw it on Friday. It was, Paul says just on it. It isn't unsellable, mate. Otherwise, there'd be no one at the table, would there? So. That's the last thing I'm going to talk about that. It's because you've listened to someone else say it. I'm just not going to thingy.
Sorry, just close that out. Yeah. There will be plenty of people out there who think the risk and the uncertainty to them makes it, we don't want to buy it.
Of course.
That doesn't make the asset unsellable.
Because other people will take the risk.
There is somebody somewhere who will take the risk, but then that means your qualification of them needs to be firmer, because that's where you get into chancer environment, isn't it, as well? So, but let's see. 10 minutes is a long time at our football club. Never mind a day or a week or a month.
Yeah. Barry says rumour Villa are selling Matty Cash. Would you have him? No, because I still don't understand this clamour to get another right back in. I genuinely don't.
Surely the answer is to let's find out about Patterson, isn't it?
But I honestly, I just struggle when people go, we need a right back. I'm like, we've got one left back. That's it. Well, and no one mentions it. Like Mikalenko is.
But Patterson's been forgotten, hasn't he? Because of the way the current manager
has treated him.
Well,
we saw a lad play on Friday. He looks very bright in Roman Dixon. Very bright, very quick. He's just signed a new 3-year deal. So what, we're going to bring another right back in and block his path off?
Well, it's all about pathways as well. Absolutely, yeah.
So a left back is what we need right now. We need a left back. We need 2 wingers. We need another centre midfield player. We need at least 1 centre forward, if not 2. That is the right back.
If not 2, is assuming DCL goes, yeah?
Dom and Beto.
Okay.
If they're listening to both.
It's like which one goes first.
Well, Dom's not signing, is he? It doesn't seem. So therefore, you'd have to replace him.
Yeah.
We've only got 1. Then haven't we in Beto? Chimiti done really well on Friday, but we're still. Are we just going to lump all our eggs in one basket with him? I doubt it with this manager. Beto is, whatever. You know what he's like. Unorthodox is the nicest way to put it.
Got to play to his strengths. And we're not going to, are we?
No, well, he's got to do a bit more.
Of
On
course
Friday, his touch, his second, not his first touch, his second touch was
not good.
all over the place. He's got to get that side, yeah. But if he's 26 and looking and going, I actually want to play, guaranteed playing. He might want to. Everton might look and go, we can get. But we're gonna need one, aren't we? Because I just don't see Dom staying.
No,
I really don't. Now West Ham are getting John Duran, so that's another door closed for Dom.
Maybe he's priced himself out of that one as well.
We'll see. I think personally he ends up at Newcastle, but we'll see.
But that's a bit like what we've just been talking about, Farhad and TFG, whatever, Part of the negotiating is a little bit of time. Was I asking too much? Was he worth more than we offered? And you try and close the gap where, a boss of mine used to say, when it comes to paying you, John, I'm sure you'll be unhappy with what you get. You'll think it's too little and I'll think it's too much. Yeah. But if you get an agreement, you get an agreement, don't you? So hopefully they can do that, because I think the Toons up there, they'd love him, and he's going to another club with a history about the number 9. So
I think he'd be very good for them, but that's up to them, isn't it?
Anthony should be leaning on him. Come up here.
Why? He's trying to get there. Gordon's trying to get
That's
out.
what I said.
Oh, I'm saying he's trying to get out.
So, subtle, is he?
The problem is that for us, we need to be moving on.
We'll get paid if he goes there, won't we?
If he goes to Liverpool,
yeah.
We get 15%, is it, or something? So
yeah, nice.
So yeah, there is that. But I think Gnonto, if we can get
Go on strike, Anthony.
I think he normally does, yeah. I think we get Gnonto in, it'll be a good start. And obviously Lindstrom, who scored for Napoli at the weekend.
Yeah.
In a friendly. Sources out of Italy are basically saying he's on his way here. They're moving on.
Are they?
They're moving on. David Neres from Benfica. Napoli are trying to bring him in to replace Lindstrom. All the stuff coming out of Italy. And again, sometimes Italy is sketchy for reports. Is that it's Everton have agreed a loan with the obligation to buy, or
obligation, option? I thought it was option.
Well, there's different. There's something.
The selling club will say obligation, the buying club will say option. Yeah.
Well, you'll see in the summer when you have to pay for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll just see what happens. We'll see what happens with that. Didn't have a great time last season. However, I'm sure he only played something like 400 minutes. So you can see 22 games and no goals and see 400 minutes and then realise that's an average of 16 minutes a game or something and go, okay. Yeah. Bit far. It was good in Germany.
I was going to say it's the German version.
And was good for Brombury. For Brombury, he got, I think both seasons, he got like 12.
He's got a show reel that shows he can go past players.
He's quick. And, but he is, I think, he's more comfortable playing off the striker, which means Everton have got 20 of them. It's, circa 2017 again. But he can play wide right, wide left. And again, that, he would help. Any attacking players. Well, any attacking players that go forward with the ball will help Everton, because Everton are not very good at doing that. Right, but we'll see what he's like. Well, if that can get done, that's really good. I think if Everton can get a couple in this week, I think that, again, is very good.
So for the next friendly.
But it's very good just because it calms people down and goes, look, we are, all of this Mark Goldbridge, clickbait, Manchester United journalism that some of our fans absolutely love. They love wallowing in it. They love perpetuating it. They love it. And therefore create stories that aren't real. That's it. We've got to sell everyone. And yet, Fabrizio Romano today, Everton in talks with Branthwaite over a new deal. So, a couple of days ago, we were selling everybody. So, where we are right now isn't great. It's far from great. I wouldn't sit here and say anything different. It's not good. We would have loved that freaking thing to get sorted to move on. In the short term, it's business as usual. Yeah. Right?
And that should calm us all. If
in the short term.
Player trading's happening, we're bringing players in. As we talked last week, Ped had a good view about it. You're not necessarily shopping where you thought you might shop. But if you're making the squad stronger, you're introducing pace, and you're moving on players who don't want to be here for whatever reason, that's goodness, isn't it? And it's still early. In normal terms, this is the week before the end of the closing of the window, and these conversations are going on, aren't they? If the whole of football is saying, let's we'll get rid of deadline day by everyone says early August. That's it. We're done now.
Deadline day is actually the 30th of August this year.
That's right, yeah.
In line with every other league in Europe.
So that'll
normally
focus
runs
attention.
into September, but
That's right,
it's a bit earlier.
Okay, cool.
But we'll see what happens.
We will.
Listen, Everton are after 2 wingers. If it's Lindstrom, good. If it isn't, they'll be looking for someone else with pace. There's others they've got their eye on. So that's what we have to do. It's just, we've just got to look at what we're doing and try to move forward with that. Kevin Thelwell pointed this out before the season had even finished, what the summer was going to look like. Was before. And don't forget, that was, 777 was still in the run. Well, whether you believed it or not, that was at that time. He said it's about selling and buying. Now, obviously today, Onana will be confirmed, won't he?
Yeah.
To Aston Villa, if it hasn't already been done, but supposedly to be today. He's doing all his press
and that
stuff.
might then trigger deals with
then the money's there.
Yeah.
So then Everton will do the next set of buying, and this is what Kevin Thelwell said. And then obviously, like we've said, if Dominic Calvert-Lewin goes,
you do it again.
Then the next set of buying takes place. And then if you get rid of Michael Keane and Neil Maupay, stuff over the weekend, Keane wants to move on because
he's right.
Rightly so. He's got to go and play. And I still think Mason Holgate, despite his goal in midweek, on Friday rather, will still be moving on.
Yeah.
So Everton will be refreshing. It'll just probably be in fits and starts. But that's what he said. That's literally what Kevin Thelwell said.
And the other thing Kev said was what he learnt last summer. My words, not his. You can't let deals fester. You have to move on. So the Gnonto thing must be getting to the point where he's thinking, if this hasn't got, materially done, say this week, you might want to question whether it's ever going to happen, and then you have to move on. And if we've just acquired some money, which we will, certainly for Onana, right? And maybe even DCL, I suppose, if that then forces those things along, then you do move on, don't you? You say to Leeds, okay, you're hanging out for whatever. Good luck with that one. See ya. So
it's the same thing, isn't it?
The same applies when the clubs are doing it to us as well.
If other people want to pay the money, Newcastle, and they can do a deal because we can't, then you just move on, don't you? Because there's plenty of footballers in the world.
Of course there is.
All the time.
And as our core requirement is pace, there's a lot of that about, and let's see. Just wonder who comes out of that team then, Baz? When we were talking before.
Well, you've got options.
Yeah.
Your 2 wide men have got to be pacey, so that's up to Dwight to get a bit quicker, otherwise he's out. Jack Harrison played really well Friday.
Yeah.
Probably one of Everton's best players, if not the best player. So we'll just have to see. It's up to them, isn't it? What you want is the manager to look at it and go, I've got four genuine options.
And that's
instead of 2 areas.
Instead of 2.
And Dwight McNeil can be tried in field or off the or whatever, but then off the striker you're going, well, we've got Ndai, we've got Delhi, we've got the core who can play there, we've got whoever, because that's what it should be. It should never be that's the 11. And really, when I look at the bench, I've got 1 sub, even though there's 9 there, I've only got 1 real sub, and that's what you have to do.
Because when we were doing I'm just looking at it now, because we were talking about the number of minutes the players did last season, and we looked at the top 11. Between the 12th highest number of minutes and the 13th highest number of minutes, there's 1,000 minutes. So he doesn't use a lot of players because he doesn't trust in those ones below halfway on this list. So
Piverage, he sat out the way just on his phone. Which I probably could have said to you, what do you think Ped's doing? And you would have told me exactly what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's not on camera, but I don't know whether Ned is on camera. So, but there you go.
Ned is, yeah.
That's where he is. He's just asking where you were.
He could turn the camera around a little bit. And
he doesn't have to.
And the audience will have to suffer seeing Ped as well.
But Michael's saying, would you have Billy Gilmore? Not if Billy Gilmore's the only midfielder on the planet.
He's going in here, apparently, yeah.
Would I take him? Others, there are other opinions available.
Not mine.
I've never rated him, never once. No. I don't understand what the fuss is about him. He's small, slow.
Anyone here rate him?
Scotland don't even start him.
Well, there you go. The oracle has spoken.
Mike's not on anyway.
Scotland don't even start him.
He's not for me, to be honest with you,
just
Michael.
Turn the mic on.
But yeah, I'd have him though.
He's not for me. But I'm sure loads of other people that think he's really good. But I'd like me midfielders to be a little bit more mobile and a bit more powerful than that.
Calvin Phillips, like, you know.
Well, Calvin Phillips has been mentioned again over the weekend. City letting him go for 20 million, but he's on crazy wages, so he'd have to take a big cut.
Or City have to pay it.
I don't think City would.
Again, they'll be considering how much are they saving rather than how much are they paying, right? So
he ain't coming to Everton on what he's on.
No, of course not.
And I'd even be going a half of what he's on, to be honest. I'd be thinking, no, we can't even really do half of what he's on.
Sporting decision, would you have him?
I don't know.
Last part of
because
it.
the problem is, if you got Leeds version, then he was very good at Leeds.
Don't want the West Ham version, do you?
Don't want the West Ham version. The other thing I look and think, if David Moyes couldn't get a tune out of him, that's because Moyes is normally good at that, wasn't he? Taking them players who've stalled them and going, yeah, good player. And yet he didn't look great for West Ham. Pep has just totally, after a few probably months, just decided he wasn't for him.
Yeah.
So
and I guess you become invisible then.
So you've got to become. He'd have to come in and almost start again. Now, is he starting again on 80 grand a week? I wouldn't pay him 80 grand.
No.
So I don't think he's for Everton personally.
Well, there you go.
There you go. Everton, Abbey was impressed with Irabunum.
He's 29 in December, you know.
Phillips, see, there's another one. I mean, Scott McTominay apparently is available for 25 million. I'd buy Scott McTominay.
Mm-hmm.
But
16 appearances for Man City.
That's terrible.
He's played 8. He played 8 for West Ham. So he increased his number of games by 50%.
That's what I'm saying. He's a couple of years ago.
It's a shame, isn't it?
He was very good, but it's that time out the game as well. You go, is it for that money? Is he worth? I'm paying a fee or not? It's tough. He would be one where I'd have to have a loan and then an option at the end of the season to have him.
16 games. He's got a Premier League medal, FA Cup medal, Champions League medal, UEFA Super Cup medal, and a FIFA World Cup.
They did score the winner in their Champions League group game away. It was a penalty.
Yeah,
it was at the
even
end,
so.
You know.
So the reason you might go there to get a cupboard full of medals, he's done that bit.
Well, when they come for him, he was absolutely right to go because it was Pep and it was a chance to go to City, and he should have been Rodri's backup, really.
Yeah,
and he wasn't. He just got put to the side. So, and that's on him, isn't it?
Totally.
That's on him because
turn up for pre-season training the first time, the banner just says "You're too fat." It's not a great look, is it?
You've got to go and get yourself working hard and get yourself fit and all that. So
31 games in total. And when did he go there? 2 years ago.
2, I think. That's 2 full seasons and done that.
Yeah.
Martin says, I'm sorry, but the whole of the 200 million, the 777 money, should be in the deal. And if there's any reduction, the new owners should gain it, not Mashiri. Well, it probably is in the whole deal.
It is in the whole. That's the point.
For me, it should be fully placed on Farhad Mashiri, personally. I know John will tell me all the reasons why he couldn't do that, but that he should foot it because he put us in this mess.
The club did.
Said this to Farhad Mashiri, in my opinion, put us in this mess by going with these people who didn't have, if they'd gone with someone else for 200 million.
Sorry, no, I don't dispute that.
Like the Freaking Group, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
I don't dispute that. Ultimately, the money's been spent, right? And the beneficiary of that spend is the football club, i.e., stadium's nearly finished.
And him, because he hasn't had to pay it.
Well, the club was always going to be the entity that's going to pay for the stadium, right? If we'd structured the debt a long time ago, like everyone
Who made the decision not to structure it?
The board.
With Farhad Mashiri.
Well, I know, yeah, but the board.
And Farhad Mashiri said, as long as I'm here, money will never be an issue. He's literally been on film saying that. So therefore...
So you rightly say it's on him.
Yeah, it's on him.
And the on him is going to cost him £450 million that he converts in loans from him to equity, having previously done that already, right? And I guess he's drawn a line in the sand that says there does come a point, and it's a matter of opinion, but there comes a point where if I'm selling the business share-wise for a very low value, then you should prove. Ultimately, you say, well, if this football club's worth 500 million, say, making it up, right, and I'm prepared to, this is my club now, and I'm prepared to sell it to you, Baz, for 100, but I want the other 400 to be invested in the club. You're going to say yes, or you say no, I'll have it for 100. But
no, I get it. But what I'm saying to you, and we've said this the other day, it's not about everything else that went on. A lot of the stuff that went on was outside his control, obviously. Things have happened, but choosing to go with those people. First of all, leaving that board in place that wasn't
that's the real
purpose
key.
at the time. Choosing to go with 777.
Unbelievable.
When there was we know there was other people there. He's put us in that mess, and therefore he can turn around and go, well, it's the football club and all that. But
no, the beneficiary. When there's a financial benefit that's going to crystallise at some stage, right? Because of either he's selling it on the cheap or whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. Then there can only be one of three beneficiaries, right? The current shareholder, the football club itself, or the future shareholder. One of them's going to get the benefit. The two shareholder groups in shareholder value, right? And if he's doing his best, rightly or wrongly now, a bit belatedly, to make sure that there isn't easy profit for the new owner because he wants that money in the club, the best way for that money to go into the club, he has perhaps concluded, is for those monies to convert to equity.
Yeah, no, I get it.
And therefore,
I'm not disagreeing with a lot of what he's done. I'm just saying if this is sort of like the roadblock, he was the one who put this roadblock in. That's the problem by going with these people. I get all the other stuff. I understand. He shouldn't be going. Well,
no, I don't dispute that.
I'm just saying that.
If we, and I don't think it can be distilled down to this, that the only reason that this isn't happening isn't because someone's owed 200 million. It's because of who is owed the 200 million. If that was the only block, it'd be totally and utterly on the board of the football club, right? Of which he sits on at the moment. And if for no other reason, and you're right, if you talk about going back 8 years, if you'd put a proper board in place 8 years ago, they perhaps wouldn't have let him do some of the things he did, right? And that may have started right at the very beginning when they wouldn't let you buy number 10s like they were bloody sweets in a sweet shop. He wouldn't let you pay over the odds for cigarettes, and they wouldn't have allowed you to give too much money, whatever. Therefore, we wouldn't have been in the mess that we've been in PSR terms and stuff like that. But it's all in the past, right? So let's not.
No, we have to move forward.
Isn't it very part of it, though, very much in the present, though, because he hasn't put a new board in? I just can't.
No, I'm with you.
I know, no, not this.
Yeah,
I can't overstate the fact that nothing at Everton has changed because that board is basically Farhad Moshiri and his mate.
I totally agree with it, mate, because, I'm not going to, I don't think I'm going to upset anyone at the club because I've said...
John, upset away, please. Upset as many people as you want.
Let me just qualify it.
What, really?
Because I'm not saying anything here that I haven't said there, if you like, right? And, I'm full of bullshit cliches and sound bites, right? But they're all backed by 40-odd years of business experience. So it's never too late to do the right thing. So putting a proper board in place, it's not too late to do that. You might convince yourselves if you're the incumbent board, but the new owner might just sweep them all away. Well, allow potential board members to take that risk. Your job is to get the best board in place that you can. And, and don't wait till tomorrow to do what you should have done yesterday. And I've said that in the last week.
I'm sure there's plenty of people out there like yourself, like Andy Burnham, like Sir Terry Leahy maybe, who would see it as a privilege to be on the Everton board in a role that might be temporary, that might steer the ship whilst this all goes on. Surely that's got. Like in normal time. I'm sure Everton fans are. I mean, up to this point, we've had it all right this summer till Friday. I thought it felt like the day. It felt like the day we got the points handed to us. It was almost like the day before when me and Baz and Ned were doing a show, going, "Is this the comfiest we've been for a while?" But I just think that we have to react to it. We can't sit round again and wait for someone to come and buy us. I think the phone should be ringing off the hook for certain people for come in, sit on the board in the short term, but at least be a proper board with different voices rather than just Farhad Moshiri, his mate, and Colin Chong, who's probably juggling so much because, yes, because I think we're going to have I think there's something being missed about the stadium that's not being said clearly, which is the stadium is going to be complete, but the inside of it's not going to be complete. And that's clearly where this remaining money is going to go on. And I'm a little bit worried about that. I'm a little bit worried that, yes, the outside might look like it's done, but is the inside going to be done? And is that why Everton needs so much time between now and the season starting next season to get that completed? You know,
what's the point in guessing?
No, really? I'm not guessing. I'm just saying they've left themselves. There's a lot of stuff to do now, and on everything. And I just feel like Farhad Moshiri, Colin Chong, and whoever his mate is,
John Spellman.
Yeah, can't produce the ideas to move us forward in the short term, and I just think it's a massive thing, really. Because when Baz says he is the club, isn't he? Because right now he is the club, and if he hasn't got the money to take us forward, then hand it over to people who will take us forward.
What does hand it over mean?
Well, I don't mean hand it over quite literally.
Okay.
What I mean is that give space for new ideas in the short term with a board.
I struggle to believe that Farhad Moshiri, bless him, is saying to Colin Chong, don't you dare bring any people in who know what they're doing. Yeah? And Baz going, and that is the issue that the football club has, because maybe most of the audience mumbled like you just did. Because honest to God, people, in my world, there's no way Farhad Moshiri has told the football club, don't bring in people who know what they're doing.
That though, is it? It's not as simple as that, is it?
No, that's why you simplify it, right?
However, simplify it. Nobody is doing anything long term at that football club right now.
Well, short term and medium term that
I've said before, there's just my belief.
No, it's good.
No one in the world would appoint a new board when they're trying to sell a football club, because those people might be there for 3 months. Nobody in the world. So Everton aren't going to do it. And when you're at a club or at a business where you know everything's changing above you and could change like that, you don't do anything. And I know that's what's happening at Everton. They're just going along.
I used to live in a world where things were changing all the time. And I learned very quickly, you can't put off till tomorrow what you should have done yesterday.
Oh, I know, but that soundbite's great, and
but I've lived and breathed it.
But the football club don't.
That's what I mean.
And that's where I'm not saying you're not right, because you are. What I'm saying is, what's correct is here, and what Everton do is here. And I'm not blaming the people there, because it's one fella. And I'm with Ped. Sat on his yacht with his phone switched off.
I'm with Ped, because a concern for me would be that whilst the limited bandwidth, people with the right stuff, if you like, that the football club has. And if you go back with me and Roger and Paul doing Everton Business Matters, it must have been in the first 2 or 3 episodes which says it lacks bandwidth at board level. Yeah. And here we are.
By the way, I'm not disagreeing with Ped.
No, I'm not disagreeing.
You're talking about the realities. You're talking about the realities of the situation.
With him either. But here we are 7 or 8 years later.
I remember what you did.
But we're certainly over a year.
And at the top table, we lack bandwidth.
Yeah, 100%.
Whoever it is, whether you use Colin as an example, or a Richard Kenyon, or whoever, all those people have more to do than they have time to do it.
So it's mad.
No, I was just about to say, your short-term Baz has now become over a year.
No, I know, mate.
That's my problem.
We're talking offline.
No, I know you're not disagreeing. I'm just saying the short team has become over a year now, and that's the problem, isn't it?
Colin's been chief exec for getting on for 18 months now.
And he's bless the fella, he's not a CEO.
No, and I think if he was sat here, honestly, he'd go, mate, I want to get back to doing the stadium, which is what I should be doing. Yeah. You know, and he is doing that, but I mean, without the headache of all the other stuff. But
days disappear when you're firefighting.
God, absolutely.
You wake up on Monday morning, and when you get into bed that night, it's Friday.
Yeah. No,
And therefore, it has to be inevitable. Things that should have got done didn't get done. Now, again, because of the soundbitey stuff, projects go late one day at a time. At some moment, if it's not happened already, someone will wake up and they'll go, where are we actually on the stadium? Oh, it's finished. Oh, fantastic. Or, oh, we've been waiting for decisions
You
on
haven't
this.
painted the lounge.
Whatever.
Yeah.
We've been
Yeah,
waiting
yeah,
for
yeah,
decisions on this. And the football club's challenge, of course, is Pedal recognise this. If the rest of us have a perception that we're leaving it empty because we want to have a slow entry into the new stadium, and then we start hearing vibes that it's not actually finished, or things had to be done, or whatever, and then we all start fretting about, hang on a minute, we're like 2 or 3 months away from leaving Goodison and we're not sure yet whether the new gaffers is available, you know what I mean? And of course, if any of those areas are the premium priced areas where a lot of the income's going to come from, then we'll all know pretty quickly anyway, notwithstanding we bought some, so we'll know.
Yes, shit, well, listen, but
That's what the void brings.
find out that
But that's what the void brings. Everything we just talked about for the last 10 minutes could be rubbish because everything's under control. It's all going the way it should be and all that sort of stuff. And but we don't know, and we have some fears. So, you were going to say something, mate, weren't you?
No, I was just going to say, it hasn't really worked so far, has it? Sadly.
And that's the point.
Yeah, that's the point. I just think that there's room. I think there's lots of room for bringing external people in.
There's no reason. I don't get a reason for why they haven't done it.
No, this is just me just talking the top of my head as well. I just don't. There's a large pool of talent, of people who could help Everton just move forward in the show.
Yeah, I agree.
I do think that this year is so pivotal.
I'd have John. I've said before. I'd have John as a
I'm just
consultant.
looking there. No,
absolutely.
I know this might be nothing, but we've spoke loads of that. We spoke quite regularly about like the pricing of things this season. Like they've just made the decision today about the ticket, and I haven't really looked into that yet.
Yeah,
but there's stuff
someone
like
sent me a message about it, so obviously. It doesn't,
but I've just seen that thing. I've just seen that thing about like Everton are running ads on Twitter to try and sell this Everton cult heroes thing, right? They're literally running ads.
Are they?
Which means they're struggling to sell it.
Well,
Now, the price point's £55. Like, it's on the 21st of August. It's like, that's when people are on summer holidays and still away and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? I find decisions like that strange. They're trying to milk everything out of Everton fans in the last season, and I understand that. I'm just not quite sure they've fully grasped where we all are and where, as a fan base, as we talked about last week, Baz, I don't think fans will get overly emotional about leaving Goodison, who go regularly, by the way. So the people who'll go on their one-offs, of course, who come over from Ireland twice, 3 times a season, or whoever, that'll be the big thing for them, and I get that. But us who go every week, I'm not going to start blubbering the first game. No. It's going to be like the last 2 or 3 games where it starts hitting us going, this is the last time we might,
last 2-3 minutes.
Maybe depending on how the season plays out, John. But I just think they might be overplaying their hand on this a little bit. Like, I wouldn't have that in August. I'd have that in March.
Nah, it's April. It should be. Right, we're done. We'll be live on More Than a Game in 5 minutes. So stay with us. Just get a drink. Ned will supercharge you over there. We'll be talking a little bit about Onana on there. So just get over there. Now, thanks to everyone else for joining us, liking it, subscribing, doing all that. See you in 5 minutes on More Than a Game.
Take care.